What's good, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Harmon Jr. Please feel free to follow me at Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media. Shout out to my new TikTok followers. Sorry, I check TikTok like once every blue moon. So if you send me a message there, please do not feel offended if I do not respond because I guess I'm old and I don't TikTok very well. But that's besides the point. As always, I have a great show planned for this week, and we have a Full Circle podcast. First timer, very excited to finally have this man. We talk to him in person, IRL, or as ISRL you can get these days. Gabe Gurwin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always. And just in case there's some uninformed people out there, who are you and what do you do?
Wow, it's a broad question, huh? Um, yeah, so I've been in the game journalism space, I guess you'd say, for a little over a decade now. The last year and some change, I've been working at GameSpot, mostly as the associate SEO editor. So yeah, that's my sort of day job. Most of what I'm doing is writing news. Updating posts, getting them to appear better in Google and that sort of thing, and also just kind of wild card helping out with stuff as stuff needs to get done. Yeah, that's what I've been doing for about a year. Before that, focus was a lot more on like guide work and reviews. I was at a place called Classic Game Room back in high school. This was like almost a decade ago, and yeah, a few other places since before I ended up where I am now.
All right, that is good to hear. You're one of those mythical SEO warriors, which I always laugh about because I feel out when you work with older people on the job, and it's one of those things that like it's one of those buzzwords that a lot of people say in professional settings, but actually have no idea what that means. Like we need an
Yeah.
SEO editor, and people are
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"What
I
is
mean, the
that?"
thing about it is the goalposts change a lot. You're sort of at the will of or the whim of Google, and when stuff changes, you have to sort of shift your strategy. So it's understandable. What works and people say is SEO a year from now might not be SEO anymore. It might be something completely different. It's just sort of managing to adapt and know why stuff is happening.
You're correct, but hey, you got it on the resume, so you're right as rain. But thank you for joining me. And we have a great show, as always, because this week we're going to be talking about Ghost of Tsushima. And if I said that incorrectly, people, I'm sorry. That's as close as it's going to get, so you better get used to that. Sometimes I call it Ghost of Tea just to appease everyone. But it is getting a movie. Yes, video game movies are becoming a very big thing, unlike the 90s, which they were a very big thing also, but also very horrible. But we'll talk more on that later. Before that, we got a lot of Xbox and Microsoft news. Some good, some bad, some in between. I don't know. Actually, depends on your perspective, but they're actually going to buy a platform, probably, most likely, that we're using right now. More on that later. But first, we're going to be talking about the state of cons in the video game world because, yes, 2020 was a wrap. We get that everything was shut down after PAX East, ironically, because I remember I went there and Boston was there. Everything was cool. I get back home and a week later and, the world was on fire, as everyone knows. And now it seems that they're all over the place because San Diego Comic Con was canceled, but now it's back in some capacity. PAX East was supposed to be this year, but now it's canceled and it's going to be back to PAX Online. And according to Penny Arcade, PAX West is still scheduled to happen sometime in September, I believe. And Gabe, I actually know you wrote about the Comic Con, I believe,
Yep.
for GameSpot. So, what's your opinion on this? Especially since you have experience on the story about Comic Con's decision to be open for a weekend following Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean the being open part, I don't know. That's such a huge event. It brings I think it's over 100,000 people into the city. So that still gives me pause, even though it is in November, and by that time, I think that most people probably will have been vaccinated and that sort of thing. But putting it after Thanksgiving, especially with people who are going to want to attend who aren't local, I think yeah, I would not have done that. That seems like kind of a slap in the face to people who were hoping to see their. Well, I mean, obviously they still can. They're not being forced to go to Comic-Con, but to people who maybe wanted to attend and now have to choose between getting to see their family maybe for the first time in a year and a half, and getting to learn more about a movie before other people do.
Yeah, and I'm real curious because for anyone who's attended Comic Con, you pretty much have to get your ticket well a year in advance, basically. And I'm just wondering, how's the organization that thing is gonna work? Like, are tickets on sale now, or are they going on sale later? Have they already sold out? For all I know.
Yeah, that I don't actually know. I think they announced it kind of not very publicly. Like I went to their they may have updated it, but when I checked a few days ago and I was writing that, I don't think they'd even tweeted it out. It was available on their website as just sort of like a PDF page. But it seems like they probably made this decision really, really recently, which makes sense given how it seems like vaccine rollout, generally speaking, throughout the country is going a little bit smoother than some people anticipated. So maybe they didn't know whether they were going to be doing something like this yet. Again, don't know why they decided to pick Black Friday to start the thing, but yeah, like my guess is it'll probably be pretty soon if they haven't started it already. But like my guess is that they probably within the last few weeks really made this decision.
Oh, most definitely. So I'm just thinking about, okay, ignoring coronavirus as hard as that may be for a second. I'm like, okay, so something that normally happens, well in a year advance. I'm like, so how are booth rooms gonna work? How are people gonna get their tickets? How are people gonna go? And I honestly was thinking maybe it's following Thanksgiving because they're hoping that will, you know, deter a lot of people from going. That's pure speculation. But I'm just like, okay, from a press standpoint, like the credentials have always been super, super hard. Like you gotta provide this, that, do this, deadline that. So I'm like, if I wanted to go as press, I'm like, one, is that even possible? Two, could I even get all the things done that I need to get done? Three, I get there. But here's my biggest thing. Would it even be worth it? Because even if it's happening, let's say, it doesn't cancel, everything goes through, who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go to a Comic Con that's half empty. There's no, like, artist row. There's no local booths. And there's maybe, like, 3 companies announcing things.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually longer than 3 days, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, it's pretty much a full-on week.
Yeah. So, like, being just 3 days, the amount of stuff that you're going to be able to actually do in person doesn't seem like it's worth it. And on top of that, I think something that we probably already knew, and big companies, are starting to figure out over the last year, is that you can do most of this sort of stuff pretty easily just live streaming it. Then people, either you're having people pay usually less money for a digital ticket of some sort, or you're doing it for free. Like the I don't remember what they called it, but those DC events from like last year, those seem to go pretty well in terms of announcing, a lot of TV information. I think they had a panel with like the cast of the Suicide Squad and that sort of thing, and everyone gets to watch together. I really don't see the point of doing a 3-day event when you could be doing something like that and then just go back to like doing actual full Comic-Con next year. That's what I would have done.
Exactly. Oh, the Fanduma.
Fandom, yeah.
Um, I really. Okay, so also another question: is it going to be like properly socially distanced? The answer is no, because you reach a certain number of people in a certain amount of space that's not feasible. But they're still going to do something. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to stand in a socially distanced line, which that just sounds like a nightmare at Comic-Con of all places.
It's the thing is, like, I want to have trust in my fellow human beings, but it seems that when we give people a chance, as a whole, to make the safe decision or to just go do stuff as they normally would, they pick the latter option. And so I'm sure people probably won't be completely following those procedures when they're there. Additionally, in San Diego, that means there's going to have to be a lot of hotel operators who, if they haven't been operating at full capacity, they're going to have to make a decision. People operating restaurants and drivers and that sort of thing. So, like, there's a lot of situations where stuff could happen. Again, this is November. I was supposed to get married actually last October, and we delayed it to this upcoming October. right now it appears we're probably going to be good based on the way things are going. So that means a month later, like I said, probably not going to be a big deal. But it seems like if they're going to be putting like social distant policies in place, it's probably not going to have much impact.
Well, congratulations. I don't know if I knew that, but congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
The Gurwin family is getting bigger. And switching gears slightly to Penny Arcade. So I remembered I talked about this on the show back in November of 2020, whenever they announced that all the PAXs were going to happen minus Australia and South, which honestly, I think PAX South is probably dead. I don't know if it's coming back, RIP, but I thought it was bold to make this announcement, in November or early January, whenever they made it. And so now, a few months before PAX East, they have officially canceled it. It's going back to PAX Align and PAX West. Do you really think by September we could have, and I'm even including social distancing to a lesser capacity, could we actually see a PAX West show? Because unlike Comic Con, I feel like PAX really does the indie games good and stuff, and it's one of the few gamer events that I feel like it's for the everyman. Like you ain't got to be a big media person; you could just be anyone and go. So I understand the importance of having PAX is probably the only video game event I say that needs to be in person, because that's part of like its jam essentially.
Yeah, a lot of people go, they meet up, they've never met before. They do the little like panels that they have friends attend, and they're actually able to do it all in person. So I'd hope so. That's probably kind of right around the beginning of when that stuff's going to be okay. I'm not a virologist or an expert on this sort of thing, but yeah, I agree that is one that it sort of loses a lot of what makes it good if it's not in person, because there's usually not too many new game announcements coming out of PAX especially from the big companies. It's mostly an opportunity for the smaller companies to shine, and then for the bigger companies to bring the games that they've announced for people to actually try out, or to show more in-depth demonstration or that sort of thing. So I agree. I do think that it's probably going to have to be in person to make it worthwhile.
All right. So with the exception of PAX, would you say that E3 and all our other bigger gamer shows are dead at this point? Considering we have State of Play, we have the Indie Case we're going to talk about. Nintendo does their thing, so on and so forth.
Like they're planning something. They said, well, they didn't say publicly, but there's some city documents that got dug up, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, that even though the ESA hasn't said anything, that these documents say that the live portion of the event anyway has been canceled, and that they're moving to doing some sort of online thing from the same space, the Los Angeles Convention Center. But did last year prove that that's necessary? I don't know. I mean, like, obviously, I think Sony had actually pulled out right before that had even happened. They weren't at E3 2019. Ubisoft, I was not a huge fan of the way Ubisoft did. They split theirs into 2 last year, and I think that there's Ubisoft shows that generally they benefit more, I think, from being long and having a whole bunch of stuff, so that they can have like the big last game, that sort of thing. But in general, yeah, I don't like. There's very little that's appealing to E3, appealing to me about E3 anymore. Like, it's open to the public now, so it's a lot slower. It's a lot more crowded. Which obviously this year, I assume that if it were public, or if it were going to be in person at all, that it would not be open to the public.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm very vocal about this. I have everyone whose dream was to go to E3. I support you. I feel you. But as someone who went to E3 for 4 years straight without the public and didn't have the public, it's not that the public couldn't be there. It's just they didn't plan for it. They didn't put any procedures in, and it's just a madhouse. Like, I would hate for someone's dream to finally be realized to be spent waiting to play one game, literally one game, for the entire weekend. And that's all you could literally do, because the lines were ridiculous.
Yeah, and like, I had friends who were there in person. Like, I've covered it remotely at this point. Let's see. I guess for 5 or 6 years now. And so like it like, even covering it remotely when you're just covering the live streams, and a lot of other people are on the ground and they're going around playing games, that's hard enough. But they really should have had a system in place the last few years for like Disney Fast Pass sort of thing. If you have just so you can get through, see what you need to do, and then move on, so that you can get your stuff written. Because I think probably too a lot of the people that were going in person, if that's the game they really wanted to see, they're probably willing to spend a few hours, you know,
That is
waiting on it.
true.
Whereas if you're writing about stuff and you have to hit these certain points, it'd be very nice to be able to get in, get out, and move on to the next thing. But and again, like, what benefit does that serve at this point, especially now with like streaming tech? I don't remember what company invested in it prior to Cyberpunk launching, though. I know they had like preview events that they were still doing, basically by, it wasn't Stadia, it was some other tech, but they were streaming it to people to just play from their personal computers. And if you can do that sort of thing and it basically works, then you're also sort of taking that part out of, being a benefit for having in-person events. So like, depending on how this goes this year, I think is probably going to determine whether they still do E3 at all.
Yeah, I mean, you made excellent points and articulated them excellently, probably better than I ever could on the subject. But as I was wondering, so I don't want to be a downer, but I feel like our major outside of PAX, at least in the video game sphere, our major cons I don't see coming back outside of PAX, and I wonder if anything will ever rise to take its place. Like if Sony will bring back PSX, for example,
Yeah.
and will Microsoft will start to have a yearly thing in the Microsoft Theater, formerly the Nokia Theater, in lieu of E3, because they'd already moved out of the hall and into their own theater, which I assume saves the money since they own the building. And would Nintendo have like probably not, but assuming
Yeah, they don't seem to care.
but will the big three, let's just throw Nintendo in there for sake of the argument, each have their yearly in-person event somewhere stateside or even like at Gamescom or TGS. And speaking of Gamescom, I know they're supposed to have a half live event, half in-person event this year, which that's cool. I've only been once, and it is insane as they make it sound.
Yeah, that's the biggest one in
Yeah.
terms of attendance, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like straight zombie movie. Like coming down the escalator, it's just like that's the horde of zombies, and like and they're about to kill me, like because in all the movies where they're in the mall or whatever, and it's like we're
Yeah.
gonna get through this with a gas tank and a chainsaw type of situation. But so yeah, I'm really curious. Let's just say fast forward 3 years, just somewhere in the future where we're good, we're fine. Birds are flying, chirping again. We're now all worried about the next big thing and wherever that is, Martians or something. I don't know.
I hope not. Just
And,
give me a couple years off.
But yeah, like I don't want to see them die, but again, that'll be even interesting from our standpoint because like think about it, E3 time, it was like a time all hands on deck. It's crazy, and think from a journalist, will June and July roll around now, and we're all just kind of like, yeah, it's June, just another day.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I think we're almost programmed to just be like, all right, big game announcements are coming in early to mid-June. And, even with E3 canceled last year, I think, so Microsoft waited. Microsoft did theirs in what, August?
Don't get me don't get me lied to. I know everybody did it around E3 time. It wasn't necessarily.
It was close. Yeah. I think Bethesda, I think straight up just didn't do one. And obviously like Ubisoft did too. They were still around that though. I see that continuing, at least. But I think it's like I think a lot of people have learned too from like work from home type setups for certain jobs, a lot of jobs, frankly, is that the pandemic sort of was the catalyst for this. But now they're thinking, why did we need to be in an office?
Yeah.
So I think like that sort of might be the route it's taking, and people realizing, we can stream this online. Like Jeff Keighley last year did a really good job with like Gamescom opening night live and doing all those sorts of announcements in the virtual space, and he did the same sort of thing for the Game Awards last year, and I think that worked really well. And there's been some hiccups. I want to say it was one of the Ubisoft events they had to restart. I could be misremembering that. The problem though is that like we remember like in the past years when we're at E3, they cram everything into the course of a few days. But it seemed like instead 2020 was just always E3. Like every week there was something happening where they were making a big announcement. It's like, you have to move your schedule around and you're always prepping for these sorts of things instead of, just sort of resigning yourself to the fate that for a few days you're going to be tired of shit. You're not going to be tired anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point. Just yeah, just it's gonna be interesting to see. Like I said, I can remember like even before we probably covered it, professionally to any capacity. You're just like, oh man, it's E3.
It
It's
was my favorite. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Before I was writing about it, it was like sitting down. It was when G4 was still on, or I think one year, like I think Xbox did their stuff on Spike for a while when that was still a thing. It was just like sit down there and watch, and it was awesome. The 2012 one I remember um, was I think that was the last one I didn't cover at all. Um, I think I was off that year and I was just watching it as a fan, and I love that stuff. But yeah, it's sort of different when you're on the other side of things, especially if you know about announcements in advance. You're like, all right, it's it's still fun, obviously, but yeah, I
Christmas
wonder if
as an
other people.
adult versus Christmas as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, as a kid, it's like, oh my gosh, I wanted an Xbox. The thing came out 7 months ago, but I've had to wait until now, and I can, hopefully I get one. As opposed to now, where it's like, well, I bought everything I wanted like the day it came out, so just buy something you think I'd like or something like that. Um, but yeah, I wonder how people on the other side feel about that though. Like last year, having some sort of event every week, if that took out the fun of it for them. Um, the one event type of event, not to go too off topic, but that I think really cannot take place online, and we've seen that is like fighting or esports stuff in general. I don't think has done very well.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
I believe Evo is happening this year in Vegas. PlayStation
Uh,
just bought Evo, right? Yeah.
it's going to be online now. They
Okay.
announced a few days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
It
right.
was supposed to be on Vegas though, and I was like, really?
Okay. So
Uh,
so I was hoping that with Sony's purchase, I thought they were gonna. But yeah, you're right. I'm actually looking forward to when Evo comes back, especially with their new ownership. I'm hoping Sony keeps the spirit of it alive, but just
yeah.
dumps money into sort of more official and pretty looking, so to speak. But we'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. The fighting game community, which honestly I was upset because I finally found a local Smash community here in Houston, and they're big, and stuff. Like there's monthly fees and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm about to get tournament ready. Like I'm about to be that guy that's just like, oh, you play online, okay.
Yeah.
Not that douchey with it, but I wanted to like hit like that. I'm not gonna go place in the top, 16, but I could make it like 3 or 4 rounds at the tournament level was good.
Yeah, my fiance has a friend, and her boyfriend is like a competitive Smash player. So I don't think I think he got eliminated in pools, but he made it a little further than he thought he would. But and that's the thing. Like you think like I fought him once, and I don't think I got a single stock out of him. And then he goes there, and he'll still get knocked out pretty early. But yeah, you're right. Like the community for those games, not just Smash, which is not going to be at Evo, at least not this year. But
Nintendo Online do better.
combat. What's that?
I said Nintendo Online do better.
Yeah, and it's totally a Nintendo decision, I think, to not have that game there. Because of some of the controversy surrounding it, and they don't seem too keen on esports in general. But
Yeah.
like that game, obviously, like NetherRealm was a big one, and Street Fighter and all of the Arc System Works games. But just there's something way different about watching people fight in the grand finals and everyone's cheering behind them than there is that doing it online. Same with like GDQ. Like it's fun to watch these virtual ones, but I really can't wait until we actually get people who are hyping them up, sitting behind them in their chairs.
Yeah, very akin to real sports. That
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
fan aspect is huge.
Yeah, and they were trying in baseball. They were using like MLB The Show audio clips, but it's just dystopic to hear
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
I mean, we all remember, the Evo moment where, ah, I can't remember their names right now, but we all know the clip where he blocked the Chun-Li special and the
Oh,
crowd went
Justin
crazy.
Wong.
Yeah. Just and Dido, right?
Yeah, Justin.
In the
I was just actually watching a video on that a few weeks ago because have you seen that documentary about Chinatown Fair?
I have not.
It's I think it's called The Lost Arcade. I believe it's on Amazon Prime Video. I think it's free. And he's not in that, but I think they might mention him. And then he's talked about that before. But like even back then, like if you look at that, people say like, "Oh my gosh, that was the greatest clip." That ever happened. And then you look at the video from it though, and it's like two guys with a tiny CRT, and there's like, they're in like a cafeteria basically, and now it's this huge thing. So like I'm looking forward to seeing that sort of level of play again with people in person for sure.
Most definitely. And especially, I mean, I'm just gonna make this comment. All those esports venues that went up that were like $1 billion or however much they were, those things look cool. So I plan to visit wherever they are around the world. I'm surprised one wasn't built in America yet, but I digress.
Yeah, was there one? I think there might have been one coming in Chicago. I think that might be on the way. I'm not positive yet, but um, yeah, I don't know. Like, to be honest, I'm not a huge esports guy. Like in general, I like FGC stuff, even though I'm terrible at fighting games, just because it's easier for me to follow. But like stuff like League or even genres that I really like shooters, I have trouble watching them when they're jumping between the cameras and stuff like that. But like it is very cool that they're getting on the level where they're getting buildings and stuff like that.
Oh, oh yeah, no, I feel you. Every time I watch Pro CS:GO, and people are like, "Whoa!" I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Everyone's so good. They headshot everybody instantly. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, like with fighting, I mean, like I played a lot of Overwatch, when it first came out for the first like year and a half or so, and I tried to watch competitive, and I was just like, I'm not interested in watching this. But then like there'll be fighting games that I've never played before, and I'll be like what I know is that guy's beating that guy really badly, and I can tell. So
Yes, you can tell very easily. So it does have that going for it. But moving on, so in case you miss the little bit of big news, Microsoft plans on buying Discord.
Yeah,
which
probably.
We don't know, but here are two things we do know. They have the money to do it, and whoever owns Discord currently, I'm not sure, will probably sell it for $1 billion. I would. I would. Everyone has their price with these things, and Microsoft has no ceiling, so if they want it, they probably can. Of course, the jokes came out about like, oh no, they bought Skype, and we all know what happened to that.
Yeah. To me, that I'm just not sure like what the reasoning would be for them buying Discord. That's my only thing. Like, obviously, I'm sure they can find another way to monetize it, and they have like the Nitro and that sort of stuff, right? But it just doesn't seem like it's like an obvious benefit besides saying like, hey, we integrated Discord into like Xbox Live chat, so you can talk with people even if they're on a different system, I guess. But
all right, so
I don't know.
I have a segment I like to call my conspiracy hat.
Oh yeah.
I need to actually get the conspiracy hat, but the conspiracy hat is what I put on when I'm just going to talk a whole bunch of nonsense that isn't backed by anything, but in my gut, I feel is true.
Yeah, go off.
All right, so Xbox, it's really been trying to conquer this whole gaming market of like we're everywhere, we're touching everything, yada, yada, yada. And we all know that, instead of trying to compete with things, like Mixer did with Twitch and ultimately failed, RIP Mixer. I don't think y'all did anything wrong. But I think this is more of an Xbox move than a Microsoft move. They're going to come in because everyone knows Discord is for everything, but it's generally towards gaming communities. Discord and gaming are synonymous, It's like Twitch and gaming. I can stream myself cooking, but let's be real. Most people here are doing something gaming related. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to take the system, Xbox branded, Discord. I don't know if they'll change the name to something else. And it's going to be another facet of their, how they're trying to, they have their xCloud, they have their Game Pass, they have, the integration with the PC. I think that's just going to be another major move to be in every facet of gaming entertainment life. And instead of trying to make a system like that, going to take Discord and then just kind of integrate it into the Xbox system. And what's the bigger move from there? Like, I don't know if they're going to monetize it in the sense they're going to start charging for it, or we're going to have ads or something. But I really just think that it's their way to be in every facet of gaming from A to Z. That,
I mean,
conspiracy hat off.
I think Spencer's smart enough to not have like them change it too much. Like I don't think it makes sense to change the name, since like everyone knows what Discord is. But the only thing I can think maybe is that they buy it and then start trying to license the use of it to other platforms. Like, you know, they have some partnerships in terms of cloud technology with PlayStation. Obviously, there's more integration there with Nintendo as well. So, like, if they could license that to Nintendo and say, hey, we found a way that you could let people like voice chat without having to have their phone or something like that, and just have the Discord app and a headset, I think maybe that's what they try to do. But again, it's
and
not
they
as
call
obvious to
me
me.
crazy.
It's just, yeah, I mean, that's just my maybe, because it's not as obvious as like something with Bethesda. Like, oh, obviously, you know, they're spending what, $7.5 billion or whatever it is to buy Bethesda so that they can, you know, have a lot more enticing games on their platform. And here it's like, you know, you can use Discord anywhere. Like, what benefit does it have being an Xbox thing? And I don't know. I guess we'll see if this even turns out to happen. The number I saw, actually, I think might be 10 billion. It was really high.
Ooh. I mean, I guess that's one of the
Yeah,
benefits of
as
having
much as 10
endless
billion.
money.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. I heard someone the other day saying, like, well, how is Sony going to counter this sort of thing, you know, by making huge purchases? Like, they can't. Like, you know, they're closing studios. Like, Microsoft is, depending on the day, either the first or the second most valuable company in the world. And, like, you know, that gives you the ability to just kind of do stuff like this, I guess.
Make sure to check out Becky. The explosive new horror comic is coming soon. Shay is a woman who thought she had it all. A black man to build a black family and a black life. Until the night the demon in disguise returned. Is Shay the one to finally stop Becky? Join our email list today at www.gogetbecky.com. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes content when you sign up. Once again, that's www.gogetbecky.com.
Just throw money. And similarly speaking, we also got their big idea at Xbox broadcast, which I was completely impressed, because I remember a time, and I'm pretty sure you do too, where innovative indie games were almost exclusively a Sony thing. I mean, you know, in no official capacity, but that just seemed to be where they were.
I mean, early on, I think near the end of the 360's lifespan, I feel like Microsoft started turning the page on that, and then that's when you had like what was it, like Super Meat Boy and those sorts of games started coming out. But
My college days were completely filled with Castle Crashers. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I didn't even like that game. It was just like an it game at the time.
Yeah, and then it seems you're right though. Since like the start of like the Xbox One generation, especially, Microsoft's been paying a lot more mind to those sorts of things, giving a lot more exposure. First through like games with gold, and now a bunch of these games are going to be like day one on Game Pass, so that, you know, a lot more people are going to be able to play them, and I do really like to see that, because I'll be honest, like in general, when I'm looking at like what's coming out, I tend to still focus on AAA's, just because, you know, it's a name I know, it's a, you know, a developer, a big developer, whatever. And it does take a little bit more of like a buttering me up to get me to start playing some sort of indie game. And a lot of times, you know, I love them just as much, of course, but I think having a segment or a really, really long show dedicated was smart. I think it was a little too long. It was almost 3.5 hours long. But there were a lot of really cool games shown there.
Yeah. And so not all, but according to, you know, their official statement, over 20 of these games, over 20 games from independent developers will be launching day one on Game Pass, which I think is a wonderful move because, the thing about indie games most of the time is, you never want to risk it. You like me personally, I'll let an indie game sit for a long time. Like people have to tell me it's good consistently for months before I'm like, okay. Because I'm not about to buy 12 different games at, $15 and $20 a pop and only play 2 of them. But, having, the big titles on Game Pass or the bigger ones and then even, the lesser ones being day one, and especially if not day one, what I would consider when everyone finally knows this game is good on Game Pass, that's a real kicker right there. Cause it's like, cool. It's like I have Game Pass is not only just a great value. Now I have a endless great indie machine.
Yeah, for sure.
Cause that's what I got it at. I was just like, cool. Because a lot of indie games I would like to at least try, but even if it's good, it's like, I don't want to spend $20 just to try a game and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was.
Yeah,
that was
the days
cool.
of like having demos all the time are kind of behind us, right? And the sales data backs that up. Generally, I think when games have demos, they don't sell as well, which is unfortunate. But yeah, like, and you're right though. Like my dad isn't really a gamer. He went like decades just occasionally playing something with me. But last holiday, I got him as well as my brother Xbox Ones, and I got them both subscriptions to Game Pass. And so my brother, it's funny, has been playing almost nothing but Forza Horizon 4. Like I got him Tony Hawk, and so he played that, and then he found Forza Horizon 4 on Game Pass and has been playing that. My dad's been trying all sorts of stuff, and he found what was it, Deliver Us to the Moon, whatever that game's called, which I was only sort of tangentially aware of, and he just started playing that. Without Game Pass, he never would have found something like that.
Yeah, and it's weird because, I mean, I always have this weird skepticism of Game Pass of like something has to break, like it's almost too good to be true. Because I've talked about this in some capacity. I won't get into the deets here, but it's like, I mean, from a price standpoint, I'm pretty sure they're making their money. But at some point, are we going to start to see the things of like Netflix of where like, oh man, this is great, but things start getting pulled at like a rapid clip. Like I know some things go away from Game Pass eventually, yeah, but I'm wondering how, because the reason I say it's too good to be true, because I was telling someone I don't have an Xbox Series X or S, and I can't really see a reason to get one because I have Game Pass and I have a PC that can graphically keep up. Maybe not like to the umpteenth power, but definitely at like no one's complaining about how this looks or performs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's sort of Microsoft's thing is like if you're playing Game Pass on PC, like the most important thing is just that you have Game Pass rather than like that you have an Xbox. I think the only, and I read somewhere, I don't know if this was even true, that they may not actually be breaking even on it yet. With Game Pass, but the main reason why I don't see it going that Netflix route is because their main competition, whatever you want to call competition these days, is Sony, who are adamant that they can't do something like Game Pass because they can't afford to, and Nintendo, which if Nintendo does Game Pass, it'll be in 20 years when they hear about it. So like I think that's probably what's going to keep it from going that route. Will the price go up? Probably. But at the price, it's so ridiculously low right now, especially if you take advantage of like Black Friday or like that EA Play conversion trick that people are doing. Like even if the price goes up, as long as, like you said, they're not just pulling stuff rapidly, which they won't really have much reason to if they don't have competition trying to sort of poach games. I think it'll probably be around in a similar form for a while.
Yeah, most definitely. RP Stadia, like I know Stadia's not officially dead, but it's dead to me. Like if you want to at me, I'm sorry. If that offends you, you can honestly at me about this because I would just
people using it. Why?
Yeah, I'm just like, man, and it's so interesting because it's such a good thing. Like I like it in the sense that I will not hide the fact that, when everyone always compares Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo when they feel like it, but Nintendo does numbers. I don't know how Nintendo does it, but they do numbers, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, I bought 3 games, but yeah, y'all. Anyway, I digress. But when you compare the two, I always felt like PlayStation won because PlayStation was always game focused or more game focused than Microsoft. Not saying that they were, but wherever they attention were. But ever since they made the decision up top to be completely game focused and kind of not do away, but not focus much on that, be the ultimate media center. Like it has worked wonderfully, and now
be platform agnostic, really more be about the brand of Xbox than the Xbox as the system itself.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like they're becoming Nintendo in a way that they're carving such a lane that no one is even competing with. And it's such a lane that it's kind of hard to now. It's kind of like, Nintendo with the handheld market. It's like no one's really doing it, but they carved such a lane and so deep that even if you wanted to, you weren't going to get in on it. And so now I feel like we're at a time where like Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, in terms of gaming, are so distinctively 3 different lanes where I feel like if things keep going at this clip, even if Sony doesn't have something in their pocket, that like they'll be so distinctly different that it'll be hard to compare. And I think that's just great for games.
It's nice, huh? Like think about so last generation, at least until fairly close to the end, it seemed like Microsoft and Sony were kind of trying to fight over the same group. And before that, going back even like if you go back to like Xbox, GameCube, PS2, those were obviously Nintendo catered to a slightly younger audience, but those were basically going after the same people also. But yeah, I agree. It is really cool to see them all doing different things because it gives you like a genuine reason to want to own them each, all of them, besides from just the exclusives. In the case of, we joked about Stadia, but I think maybe the final nail in Stadia's coffin, though, is Game Pass, just because like if you have a Game Pass subscription, obviously you have all those benefits that you get on PC and Xbox and that sort of thing. But also you have the streaming that you can access all of those Game Pass games. And then I think like all the other games that you've purchased yourself that are like on your console, you can access those on your phone. Pretty soon that's coming to iOS too. It's, no one else. Well, I mean, Sony does have PlayStation Now and some of that sort of remote play stuff, but not to that sort of extent. So yeah, it is nice to see them all really offering something different. It also makes it a little bit easier to decide where to play what game on what,
I mean that it does, I can see myself being like, especially after this last ID thing, it's just like if it's an indie game, I'm just playing on Xbox One because technically I'm already paying to play it on Xbox.
Yeah.
Why would I buy it on my PlayStation, which keeps running out of space? Sony, I need to do something about that. I love my PS5, but damn,
they need to fix that crashing issue too with the external hard drives. It's I don't know if how many people listening have had that problem, but a few people I know. If you have an external hard drive plugged in, even if you're not using it, it can like shut your system down, not just restart it, but like cause it to like enter like safe mode basically.
Oh man,
yeah.
Hard crashes are never fun. I always have that slight panic. Is all my save data gone? Am I gonna like go cry myself to sleep tonight? Is it finally that moment? It hasn't happened yet, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm due for that heartbreak. Just
at least with like cloud, there's like cloud stuff on all the consoles now, so that takes a little bit of the worry out of my mind. But yeah, for sure.
so one for my Switch specifically, there's certain games that aren't backed up to the cloud because reasons. And one of those games is Pokemon. I'm just like, why Pokemon? Like that's the one game that cannot lose data on. This is like 500, 700, 1,000 hours of my life. I would very much love to never go away. Please make Pokemon Cloud. Like that's the one game. I don't know if they don't do it for people trying to cheat or do crazy.
Maybe it's something to do with the Pokemon Go integration. I don't know. The only other game I can think of that for some reason can't do that is Dark Souls on Switch. I believe can't do it, which is really weird. Like I don't understand why that game, like there's there's nothing different about that game besides the fact that it's sort of, always saving, depending on where you are. But yeah, I still, though, even though it like auto uploads when you're done playing a game, like on PS5, especially if it's a really long game, like especially like Assassin's Creed, I was doing it every time I quit the game. I was still going to like the PlayStation Plus tab and making sure that it had synced before I turned my system off, just in case something happened.
Oh, so it's not a horror story. It was just an unfortunate story. I was playing Yakuza Like a Dragon a day or two ago, and my friends were all like, "Oh, let's play Apex." Send me an invite. I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, yeah, let's play Apex." And then I hit the PS button, joined in. I'm like, "Yeah," and I go back to like Yakuza like the next day and realize it didn't save. So I lost about a good hour of gameplay. But I was like, "Oh crap!" I was like, I just assumed we were all good. Like I go back. And you're like, you're not at the part you're supposed to be. You're like, oh wait, did it like load auto save? Let me go to my save files. You're like, oh damn, it's not there.
Yeah, that's the thing. That happened to me basically with Watch Dogs Legion last year, because that game came out like really soon, but I don't remember the exact date, but it was really soon before the new consoles did. And so I started playing it on my PS4, and then I stopped. I don't remember. I think I moved on to like playing Demon Souls first or something like that. And I was only a couple hours in, but I thought I had transferred everything, and I had uploaded the save at a certain point to like the Ubisoft servers, because this is PS4 to PS5. It wasn't the smart delivery stuff where it's really easy. And then when I got my PS5 and I put the game in, I realized I'd forgotten to upload it right before I like put my PS4 into storage. So I was a few hours back that I had to redo. Luckily, it wasn't more than that.
Yeah, it's moments like that. It's like, maybe memory cards aren't that outdated. Like, yeah, there it is. It's right here in my hand. There it goes.
Yeah, it was nice back in the day. Or the systems that just like, they just save the data to the memory card, and or not the memory card, the game itself. So that way too. If you put it in like 10 years later, sometimes you're reminded of what you were playing.
Oh yeah, man, I love that. I actually had an unfortunate event with one of my Game Boy Color games. The eternal battery died. I had like,
oh no,
I had to pop it open and put like the little dime size 10 volt or what have you into it. But I remember, and it was weird because like it would turn on. Like you would start the game, and I can't explain it. Like you knew something was wrong because the way the game started, and you start like it just seemed like, and then I would play it, and then the image would like burn into the screen and then slowly fade away.
Really? I thought I figured that all it did was allow you to save. So there's like other stuff that having the battery is necessary for.
I guess it depends on the game. I don't know is ultimately the answer. But I guess because, I don't know, the battery may have powered something else, besides saving. Like, I know in the Pokemon games, it just doesn't save. Like, you turn it on, and if, you bump it, it goes back to, like, the start screen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, it was like a Mario game. And, like, yeah, like, you would be playing, I think it was, like, the All-Stars or something. And like it would like image burn into the screen and then like fade out. Like I don't know, maybe it needed so much power. The Power Marios couldn't be in the power.
Weird, and sometimes those die off like that, right? Because like they said like pretty short lifespan. I think maybe 20 years or something like that for like the Legend of Zelda on NES. And some people were like, hey, mine still works. And like disc rot is supposed to have happened already too with like PlayStation 1 games. We're still playing those.
Oh yeah, man. The power of play.
Yeah.
But speaking of PlayStation, and while we were talking about the 3 distinct lanes, I was like, maybe PlayStation is the Showtime big movie system, as in like all their games get turned into movies, so it's the big production console. We got The Last of Us, we're having Uncharted. I'm surprised there's no talks of God of War, and and for the top this week we have the Ghost of Tsushima movie, which is supposedly going to be directed by John Wick's director, Chad Stahelski. I'm probably not saying that right, but the guy who directed John Wick. You probably didn't know his name anyway, people. But yeah, and my thing about these video game movies recently is not that, one, that they're happening, because how many times have you heard X video games getting turned into a movie, and that's the same story for like 10 straight years. But a lot of
Gears.
Yeah, but a lot of big names, considerable big names from actors, directors, screenwriters are being attached to these projects. Like, we know the Uncharted movie's happening. We know the Last of Us TV series. Like, these are officially happening. The Mortal Kombat movie's happening. Kind of in the same vein, the Cowboy Bebop movie has finished filming. Is it a movie or a series? Cowboy Bebop.
I don't know. You mean, is that the Netflix live action one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I assume it would have to be a series, given how long that is, but I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, we're getting the Ghost of Tsushima. Jin's voice actor has already said he is completely down with, reprising his role in the live action movie. And honestly,
which I'm sure is not going to happen.
yeah, it's not. But so yeah, I mean, Sony is really the place to go for, these AAA huge production games. And I really think they're very cinematic in nature. So I think, the transition will work well. My only concern with these things is this a benefit for non-gamers essentially, or people who haven't played the game, or is it a benefit for us all? Because, of course they might change things, but if you played the game, you essentially watched the movie.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
That's the thing. Like, what purpose does this serve, Like, I know people are angry about, well, some people in the comments are like angry about the new Mortal Kombat movie introducing like a character who's not in the games, and I think making him sort of the main character. But at least that's something new. Like, to me, with Ghost of Tsushima specifically, one, I hope this doesn't take too much away from Chad Stahelski doing John Wick, because I love those movies. But two, like, those were like, the game was already a clear tribute to Kurosawa, so it seems strange for that to then become a movie. Like, it seems like they were trying to be the video game version of those movies already. I don't know. It with The Last of Us, stuff's going to be different. They said they're going to make a lot of changes. It's a TV show. I'm still even sort of on the fence about whether that's necessary, but I don't know. Some of the best like video game movie ideas I think that have been coming out are for the ones that almost have no plot to begin with. Like, I don't remember where it's showing. I think it's going to be a TV movie or direct to video or something. But a Werewolf Within, that VR Ubisoft series, they made that into a movie. There's like no plot to that game. It's just a very basic premise. But that means they can kind of do whatever they want. Whereas with something like Uncharted or Ghost of Tsushima, it's like Uncharted was already video game Indiana Jones. And before that, Tomb Raider was kind of video game Indiana Jones. And now you're making that into a movie. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't really interest me that much.
Yeah. So I'm so on the fence about it, though, because it's like, on one hand, I'm like, it's a movie. I mean, I think Metal Gear Solid, it's a movie that you're allowed to play at times. And some of these other games, they're not as bad as Metal Gear, like Ghost of Tsushima, things like Horizon Zero Dawn. They're very much a game. You're playing, you're playing,
sure, yeah.
You're playing way more than you're watching, for sure. But in terms of, if you took all the cutscenes, and like, if you go to YouTube right now and put Ghost of Tsushima cutscenes, it's like already probably like a 2-hour video, and there's the movie right there. And I'm excited because I feel like these things should be done justice. For example, like we've all done the thing where it's like, oh, you tell your friend like, hey, come play this game. Usually your significant other, and you're like, sit down on the couch with me. The story's really good. Watch you, get invested, and it's the bonding time. And it's like, I wouldn't mind to do that with like, my mom or something. Mom's not going to sit down and watch me play a game. But,
yeah,
be like, yay, this game. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, I want you to honor it and do it right, which to do that, I'll be like, don't change nothing. Keep the changes minimal. But then it's just a repackaged experience.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't want you to be like, 90s Street Fighter movie either. So
yeah,
I don't know how to feel.
I guess I'm kind of in between. Like, obviously, like the 90s Street Fighter movie, they just turned it into a it seems like they wrote that as just a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie or whatever, and then sort of worked the Street Fighter stuff into it to make it make sense, But then, yeah, like there's no like, I don't want to just watch the plot of Ghost of Tsushima as a movie. I think Capcom seems to understand this pretty well, how to do it, though, with the Resident Evil like animated movies. Not the last one. That one was bad, but the ones before that, and it looks like this upcoming series in that they're they've got characters, maybe there's some new characters as well. It fits the tone, but it's not just retelling it. It's doing something. It adds something, to the space. Um, the Paul W.S. Anderson movies kind of didn't feel like Resident Evil really. They were too different. They changed too many things. And then it seems like this new movie, it's the guy who's directing it. I can't remember his name, but he said that he's trying to honor them, and they're going to take place sort of around the time period of the first, the second games. And my hope just is that he's still telling his own story there, and that he's not just trying to say like, here's what happened in Resident Evil 1 and 2. It's like, I know what happened in those games. I played them. Even like you said, if like someone who doesn't really play games wants to know the story, they can go on YouTube, type in Resident Evil video game movie and see all the cutscenes and understand it too. So yeah, I'm just hoping that they can toe the line between doing something that makes it worthwhile to actually watch if you've already played the game, and not changing so much that it doesn't have any resemblance to it. Like like you said with Street Fighter, or like first person sequence at the end aside, that Doom movie that came out in like 2005.
But I think you actually solved the riddle here earlier with your earlier statement, hit the, nail on the head. With you kind of have to adapt things that have a very loose story, like, Sonic the Hedgehog, which I enjoyed. Exactly. I was super surprised. Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik, I thought that was a horrible decision. At the end of the movie, I was like, maybe not. I was wrong. Thank you, sir. You still got it.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu also. That was a good take on it.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, and we have the Mario movie. I assume it's still happening by Illumination, the people who did Despicable Me. I don't know if that's DreamWorks and Illumination or just Illumination, but we have.
I think it's just Illumination. Yeah, yeah, and that's the same thing. Like, there's been so many stories in Mario. I'm sure they're not just going to do going after Peach. They've got to be doing something different there. Yeah, but those are the ones that end up being the best because they don't feel so trapped by the plot of the original.
Yeah, so
source material.
Like, yeah, you don't have to you have the creative freedom to just be like, understand these characters. It's like making a Scooby-Doo movie, you just need to understand who these characters are, and you can put them in any setting.
Yeah,
but like I said,
how about Kiss shows up? Sure.
So yeah, I guess going forward, if we're gonna continue this trend, maybe we're gonna have to stop picking games that are already blockbusters in their own sense, and go for something because you're always gonna make someone angry, most definitely. Like, there's no way to avoid that. But yeah, more games, like, cause like I feel like if you made like a Demon Souls game, like, you could do that. Like, the character, like, he's just in the medieval setting. There's a big bad, and you got fights.
There's some very angry people that are gonna be like, actually, you didn't see his one sword's item description, which means that what you said can't happen. But
oh yeah, most definitely. Oh man, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm a guy all about the puns. So like, Sonic 2 is coming out, it's got like Sonic 2 and Tails. Like, if Sonic 3 is not called Sonic 3 and Knuckles, like, assuming they're like, I'm out. Like, I will literally just take money out of my wallet, go to the movie theater and just throw money at it. Like, when Sonic 3 and Knuckles is announced, like,
maybe you have to buy 2 tickets to get the Knuckles part of it. Yeah.
That would be genius. It's like, oh, you bought the Sonic 3 ticket, but you didn't get the Sonic and Knuckles ticket, which you have to insert into the Sonic 3 ticket to get the full movie.
That'd be good.
That would be good. Like, I'm sure that would piss off regular people who didn't get like the joke that they're doing, but like, I would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work, but I would do that.
Yeah, like the one that really disappointed me that's not happening, I don't think, or at least he's not involved in it anymore. Rob McElhenney, the creator of Always Sunny, he was attached at one point to be directing a Minecraft movie. And talk about something with a loose story. Like, I think that would have been really, really good. Just kind of give him free reign to write jokes and stuff like that. So maybe one day. Because I've played Minecraft just a handful of times, but like, that's something that I'd totally be down to see, just because I know how much freedom they have to kind of do whatever they want with it.
All right, I'm going to put my gamer card at stake with this statement, but for the longest time, and I'm talking about, I didn't find this out to maybe like 2018. I didn't know Minecraft had a story. When someone's talking about like, yeah, man, you get to the end of Minecraft and you beat the Ender Dragon. I'm like, what end of what are these words you were speaking? And they're like, yeah, you gotta go to the netherworld, and I'm like, I had no idea, just zero that Minecraft had a story for the longest time.
Well, before it like officially launched, it was already getting like really popular on YouTube and stuff. And at that point, I don't think they really did. I don't think that's like all the RPG stuff. I don't think was in the game yet. So yeah, I mean, it's it's fair, honestly, to not know that the game had a story. And then they leaned into that stuff with like the Minecraft story mode, like Telltale thing, where, which again probably worked just because they could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, but hey, if the popularity of these movies, brings rise to just how great video games are, because one of the biggest things I always tell people is that people who don't play games, maybe at a high capacity, or maybe they're just here and there gamers, that I think a lot of people don't understand that games have very good and detailed stories. And to me and you, it seems like common knowledge, but it's still one of those things to like, I feel like the average person who would maybe identify as a gamer still thinks our stories are as simply as Mario has to go save a princess, and that's just like all the depth they got. So
I mean,
I think it'd be cool for the general. I don't know. Again,
like it depends. I think the pedigree for what's considered a good video game story is still, or the bar that needs to be reached is still lower than what it is for like a good movie story. And don't get me wrong, there are some movie story or some video game stories that I think are better than most movies, but there are also some video game stories that I think if they weren't video games, they probably wouldn't be treated with the same level of prestige that they are. Like, I love The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is a really good game. The first one I'm talking about specifically. But if that were a movie, I think a lot of people would just say, "Why did you remake The Road?" Really, like
I've never heard that actually. So,
and that's not to say that like it's not worth playing, and that and that it's not a great game. But if you take away that interactivity and you're just saying like, "Here's the story we wrote," the influences sort of start to become less like influences and more like just sort of an imitation if you put it into a different mediums. It depends. But that's the thing I think is people are going to end up seeing with like Uncharted, who don't know what it is. They're going to be like, why did they just make Indiana Jones, whereas as a video game, everyone's like, this is one of the best written stories.
Oh, yeah, no, I really think, first of all, I'm going to be honest. I've never thought Uncharted story was anything other than this is something to explain why I'm in the jungle.
Yeah.
So
good popcorn fun, yeah.
So I'm real curious about that. But I feel like the other big titles we're getting, I feel like they're different enough to to get that, because I will say The Last of Us, in terms of like, if I just think of it solely as a to be watched medium, it will succeed where The Walking Dead would fail in a sense, or other zombie movies where, because since it's so character driven and it's so deep in its characters, I think that's where it saves it, because a lot of zombie movies aren't, or if they are,
and they don't have as many characters.
Yeah,
too. Like there's just a few you have to know, because I think they said that there's not going to be as much action in the show as there were in the games, which I think makes sense, because having that broken up all the time with action in the show, I think would start to actually get kind of annoying. But if you like, I think the problem with like Walking Dead, have you followed like Walking Dead? Did you watch the first few seasons and stuff?
I was that guy that was like, after maybe like season 4, I was like, I can't do this no more, and that was the right decision, it turned out.
I dropped out after season 2 because I hated it so much. Season 2, I think, was the one at the farm.
Yeah, it was the farm. See, that was garbage.
Oh,
but
God,
I was willing
so
I was willing to give it another go. And I hate that they start doing the mid-season finale, and then I digress.
Yeah,
go on. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's sort of slow when there's so many characters and nothing's really happening, versus the slow story-driven stuff that they seem to want to be doing in The Last of Us. Yeah, I think that could work, especially since it's a show and not a movie where they're going to have a lot of time. That I'm excited about. I think The Witcher did a really good job of that too. I forgot about that at all because it's not a movie, but in terms of really letting the characters develop and having action when it makes sense, and doing something that I think that the first season of The Witcher is based on like the very, very first written like short stories for the Witcher book series. That's why it might seem completely different for people who haven't played the games yet, but like that sort of thing interests me. And I hope we see more of that from some of these bigger series where people like know the story.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to have you on later at some point so people can join our TED Talk or college lecture on video game movies. Because unfortunately, we're out of time this week. But thank you for joining us. As always, follow the podcast at FC Podcast 23. If you love it so much, you want to throw some money my way, it's FC Productions on the good old Patreon. And I want to thank my Patreons, Gabe Garcia, Baker Rice, Rachel Coleman, and Ryan Frazier for doing your thing. And remember, people, like, sharing, subscribing. It's always free. And Gabe, if people want to like, share, subscribe to anything you do, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so my @, which I will never change despite how corny it is now, is Gaming Angel Gabe, all one word on Twitter. And then you can find me on GameSpot.com. Yeah, that's basically it.
All right, he's bringing the news to you and optimizing it on Google so you never have to search too far for it. But as always, everyone, have a great week and be blessed.